All right, so this is going to be a video to show how to complete exercise number 18 from this PDF right here. I used this on the midterm in 2022, but if this doesn't make it onto a midterm in a future year, then this will just be a video to show how to do this part, which can be quite complicated. So I think this is a good video to sort of polish those skills right before you take your, Inventor or SolidWorks or Fusion360 certification exam. So this piece, right, which is going to eventually look like this, if you're still kind of new to 3D modeling, you might be tempted to build this right as a circle and then extrude up, and then maybe a bigger circle and extrude up, and then that smaller circle again and extrude up, and then, and do this like that, almost like you're building like a layer cake. But this is actually a perfect piece to practice using the revolve tool, right? Which is to draw this halfway first and then basically sweep this part 360 degrees around so that it revolves around that central axis, right? If you're not familiar with the revolve tool, right here in Fusion360, I will do a real simple one. So I'll just draw something right here, right? I'll do it. It doesn't really matter. I'll just do any kind of randomness here, right? Like that. If I take this shape and I click on the revolve tool up here in the ribbon, it's going to ask me for a profile, which I've already selected. So now it's asking me for an axis, which will be, I can choose this right here, this the Z axis. It's going to take that shape and revolve it around that axis. You see, all the way around. You can choose how many degrees, but I'll do the full thing, 365 degrees. Click OK, and you can see what that did. So we're going to do that, but with this. So I'm going to close this tab and do another. We're going to go ahead and design this by doing our first sketch on the front view of the view cube, right? The ZX plane here, assuming you have Z pointed up. If you have Y pointed up, then it'll be the YX plane, but either way, it doesn't really matter. So as long as we're looking at the front of the view cube, we'll be fine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start to draw this basic shape right here on the lower sketch, right? Because this is the sketch that's going to get revolved around. So we're going to first do this without using these chamfers or these fillets. So we're really just going to draw a really basic, like basically 3 sets of rectangles, right? One going in like that. Then one going further out, which will be sort of this rectangle right here. Going in again. Down. Back to origin. All right. So now we can go ahead and start to put in some of these dimensions. So notice here, though, we have one issue. This dimension is going to the center of where these circles are going to be, right? It's not to the very outside here. So we want to get that one. That's the one that we really care about, right? So to do that, we really want to reference this larger photo here, up here, the larger sketch. And notice that the diameter for the outer ring, which is what this corner will be, the one I was talking about before, is 108. Now, also with these diameters, remember that we're only drawing half of this shape for it to be revolved all the way around later, right? To create that revolution. So we need to take all of these diameters and turn them into a radius. So we're going to have to divide them in half. But we're not going to divide them in half in our head and then put them into Fusion. What we want to do is we want to let our software do the work. So our first one here is 72. We're going to ignore the 48 because we could use the 48 to revolve this around and create the circle in the center, but we're going to just make a circle in another sketch later. So let's look at the 72. Let's do that one first. So it's going to be a measurement that it goes from the middle line, this center line, which will be our axis, to the end of this piece here. And that's going to be 72, but then divided by 2 because we want the radius, not the diameter. Press enter to get that. Okay. Now this and this are the same, but I'm not going to make them both 72 divided by 2. Instead, I'm going to use a constraint to set this line collinear with this line because they should both be along that line. So collinear, it's right here on the ribbon. Click, select, select. Both are collinear. To make this shape how it was when I first drew it, I'm just going to drag these lines back in. You might not have to do that, depending on how you drew them when you first started, but I always like to bring my sketch back to the way it looked in here. So there we go. All right. After the 36, let's go ahead and do that 108 now to this one here. So we're going to go ahead and dimension here to here. 108 divided by 2. So that's it for the horizontal dimensions. Let's dimension this vertically now. So it's going to be 24. See the 24 here from the top to the first part of this sort of outward protrusion. So these we won't divide in half because it is just straight up 24. And then it's 32 on the bottom. So from the bottom to the shelf to this sort of outward rectangle is actually bigger on the bottom than the top, which you can tell it kind of looks a little bigger on the bottom than the top. All right. The more we learn 3D modeling, the more we practice doing parts that aren't symmetrical, since it's a little bit harder. Okay, so we got 32 and 24. Then we have 6, right? We have 6 for this line here. And this line will be 8. 6 and 8, because the bottom is a little bit bigger than the top. So now we have 6 there and 8 there. All right. So now we can do our fillets here. Let's do those first. So kind of hard to tell on this drawing, but it is an arc that eventually leads into, so the arc is blue, that eventually leads into a straight line, which I'll draw in green. This straight line being incredibly, incredibly small. It's a little easier to see on the bottom one, which again, arc in blue, which eventually leads into a straight line, which I'll draw in green. A little easier to see that. Well, let me zoom in one more time. A little easier to see that right there on the bottom one. On the top one, it's very small. So since it's the arc, oops, sorry about that. There we go. Since it's the arc that is actually touching this right here, arc to straight line, okay, we need to delete this line, put it in arc, and then this will become our straight line that connects to it. If that doesn't make sense, just kind of watch here and then you can follow along. So I'm going to select this line here and delete it. Then I am going to create, we're actually going to delete this 6 because this line isn't what's 6. It's from the bottom to this point here. So we're actually going to delete this 6 dimension that we did earlier. So I can pull this down a little bit. There we go. So now I can go ahead and put in a 3-point arc. So I'm going to go to create, arc, 3-point arc. Click dot to dot, pull my arc. Okay. Now I'm going to make the arc tangent, that button there, click to the line. It has a nice smooth transition. Last but not least, I can go ahead and put that 6 back in because it's supposed to be dot to line, or you could do dot to dot, but either way, it should work. 6, enter. There you go. Now this still doesn't look quite like it because we still have to define where this goes, right? It looks a little bit more like that, I guess. But the point is that we'll get that when we do the 64. We never did these 64s, so we'll do that soon. Let's do the bottom one now. Again, we'll delete this 8, and we'll delete this horizontal line right here. I'm going to drag this dot up so I can create a 3-point arc, create arc, 3-point arc, and go dot to dot and bring in my arc. That already snapped tangent there for me because I held my mouse in a way that was tangent to that line. If that doesn't do that automatically for you, don't forget to use the tangent tool. Actually, you know what? I'll just delete that so I can do it. Tangent, arc to line is what you should do. Okay. Again, we have to put that 8 back. So sketch dimension, dot to line, 8, enter. All right. Very good. Very good. Now we can do those 64s. Sketch dimension, horizontal line. I'm sorry, that's vertical. Back to our what will be our axis of rotation. Change that to 64 divided by 2. Enter. We're going to do that here as well. To here, 64 divided by 2. Or what we could do, actually, is we could set these collinear, which would probably be even better. That is collinear with that. Okay. Okay. These are still blue because we can still move this up and down because we haven't defined an entire height yet. Oh, because I'm missing the 16. Never made this 16. Let's do that now. This right here, 16. All right. This is still able to move. This is still able to move. Oh, these don't have radiuses yet. That's what I'm just noticing now. Radius of 4. So let's go ahead and dimension this to be 4. And they're both equal. And I already made this one the one where I set my dimensions. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do that the opposite way. Let's delete the 4 there. Let's put our dimension here to be 4. And then set equal that to that. There we go. Okay. This has been finished here. Let's make my dimensions look a little nicer. Bring these in a little bit. That looks good. Okay. Now we can, oh, we're not done yet. We have to chamfer these 45 degrees. Actually, let's do that in 3D. Let's not even worry about those. We'll do that in 3D. So yeah, let's go ahead and revolve this now. So let's select, let's click Finish Sketch. Select this profile. Select the Revolve tool at the top with the axis of rotation being the Z-axis. If I click Home, you can see that looks pretty accurate so far, just missing the holes in the chamfers, but we'll do those next. Click OK. Both of these are 4-inch chamfers at 45 degrees. So let's go ahead and modify, chamfer, top corner, bottom corner. Four-inch chamfers. 45 degrees is the default because they're equal distance. Click OK. All that means if that wasn't completely understood there, it's going to be 45 degrees if it's an equal distance chamfer because this was square before right? It went in at 90 degrees. If we're going in 4 inches this way, let me type that. My handwriting's horrible. If that's 4 inches that way and 4 inches this way, 4 inches down, that's going to create a 45-degree angle from what was a 90-degree angle. If that math doesn't completely make sense to you, don't worry about it. As long as you understand that we're going 4 inches in both directions, because that's what that says there. Okay, let's go ahead and put a hole through this thing by selecting the top, creating a sketch. Very easy here. We're just going to go ahead and put a circle on the origin that is the diameter that it needs to be, which is 48 according to the drawing. 48 millimeters. Enter. Finish sketch. Extrude this all the way down using flip. Press OK. Now I have our hole down the center. So now what we need to do is get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes around this portion here. So I'm going to select this sort of this ring, almost if you think of this like Saturn, we're selecting its ring here. I'm going to create a sketch there. We're going to go ahead and create these construction lines, right? So that we can get the right angles out of this. So what we can do here is go ahead and create a line that's going in this direction, a line that's going in this direction, and a line that is on the x-axis like that. All right. I am going to, just so that these will eventually be constrained, even though they're just construction lines, they're still going to count as unconstrained, so they won't give us our red padlock. Just so they eventually are constrained, I'm going to make them coincident. I'm going to make them all coincident with the border of this ring. There we go. Now I'm going to follow the angles here. So from here to here is 60, 60, enter. From here to our next one, also 60. Sorry. Yeah, no, that's accurate. 60. And oh, this was never put on the origin, so I'll do that now. From the midpoint of that is on the origin. I use the midpoint tool for that construction line on the origin. All right, everything has the red padlock, but we're not done yet. Now we need the circle for this, for the center of these circles to lay on. So that circle is going to be 88. So a circle that is 88 millimeters in diameter. I'm going to also make that a construction line. And now I can put a circle on really any one of these. And I don't think we even needed to do these lines here, because if we just put it right here and used the circle tool and said that we wanted 6 of them, actually let's just practice. Let's just try that. Let's go ahead and get, they're 8 millimeters in diameter according to the drawing. These are not going to be construction lines. These will be real. Now, if I select this and use my circular pattern tool under create, using the center point as the origin, okay, bring this down a little bit to see more options. There we go. I want 6 of them. There you go. See, they automatically lay on those angles. So we really didn't even need these, but they're good practice to make because sometimes they don't want these evenly spaced. They want them on very specific angles. So, you know, practice drawing them. It's useful. All right, let's go ahead and click OK on that. We got 6 of them. We're going to go ahead and finish the sketch. let's go ahead and extrude these. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to extrude all the way through, give them a flip, click OK. And that right there is our finished piece. We're going to go ahead and just confirm that if you did this the same as I did, we should have the same mass. I'm going to go ahead and right click on unsaved here at the top, go down to properties, and we should have, if we have steel here under the physical tab, we should see a mass of 1,769 grams, 0.671. So that's 1,769.671. All right. I hope you found this useful. It's kind of a tough part, but if you try to take things one step at a time and sort of imagine how you're going to progress through the part before you just immediately start modeling, you will avoid yourself a lot of headaches in the future. So I hope you found this useful, and I will see you in the next video.